Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. As it's approaching that time of the year when people start migrating and moving into their new journals, I thought it would be the perfect time to kind of share with you my migration process for planning and scheming and strategizing for the eventual bullet journal setup that I'll be doing for 2023. I've done a little bit of work ahead of time, which I'll show you right now, but for the most part, I wanted to kind of talk through my thoughts and my process while in this video, just so you guys can see how I think and how I approach this kind of process. So the kind of first step I would normally do that I'm actually going to be skipping this year, but I did want to mention, is that usually the first thing I would do when thinking about my new journal would be to go ahead and flip through my older bullet journals to see kind of how my system progressed throughout the year and how my books changed. But this year I'm not going to do that. The reason why is because until this October, I had been keeping my bullet journal as a place for both my work and my personal life. And after October, I decided to switch things up, and now I no longer keep my work in my bullet journal. I keep that in a separate notebook. So I didn't think it made sense to go through my previous journals besides this one, which I started in October, because the purpose and function of them was quite different previous to October compared to now. So I did look through this one in advance, but I did want to put that out there because normally I would flip through all my notebooks, but I just found that I started to do that and noticed that a lot of the collections and things I'd set up didn't really work for how I wanted to use my journal now. So that is just something I wanted to mention before I jump into it. The other thing that I did in advance that I like to create beforehand, like way back in, I think I made this spread in October, yes, is I like to create a collection in my journal for just kind of dumping out my ideas for the next one. So this isn't necessarily a planning page, it's more just a spot where I'll get kind of sporadic ideas and I'll be able to capture them here instead of just forgetting about them inevitably, which will happen if I don't write things down. So I did start this page in October, and this is where we're gonna kind of start in the planning process, I'm thinking. So on this page, I wrote down a couple things. The first thing I wrote down was the notebook I wanted to use next year. I've decided that I really like the A6 size for personal journaling, so I'm gonna continue using an A6 Stalogy, and I believe my new notebook is coming in the mail today, so that's exciting. And in case you're wondering why I'm getting my notebook so soon, it's because I'm gonna be setting up my new journal for December, because I'll just show you quickly. As you can see, like I'm pretty much out of pages. This is where my November notes kind of start here on page 353, and there's 368 pages. So there is no feasible way for me to continue journaling in this into December. So I'm gonna be starting my new notebook in December of 2022, but it will be for the majority of 2023. So that's why I got my Stalogy a little earlier this year. And on this note page, I also jotted down briefly the kind of purpose for my notebook, just so I could stay aligned with what I wanted it to do. So for me this year and next year, my journal kind of is going to act as a planning tool and also a tool to document my personal life. I like to write a lot of different details about my day in my notebook. Not everything is task related necessarily, and I want to kind of continue that into next year. So keeping that at the front of my mind helps me, especially when I'm planning out what spreads I want to include, because sometimes I can get really excited by all the new pages I want to add in my journal, and I'll forget or not realize that some of them may not be the most directly related to what I'm actually using my journal for. So yeah, kind of have my notebook here, my purpose, and then at the beginning of October when I made the spread, I just had a section for spread ideas, and throughout the month until now, I've just been writing down anything that comes to my mind. It doesn't have to be a good idea. In fact, I have some weird ones in here, like a teabag graveyard. LOL. That's what I wrote. And I think my idea here was just to have a page where I'd paste in all my tea bags that I try over the year. But now looking at that, I think I'll probably just save that for my memory keeping journal, which is a standard traveler's notebook. And this is kind of like why I like this process. I'll kind of write things down, and now when I'm going ahead to plan, I'll think about if it actually makes sense. And in the case of this one, it doesn't, because it overlaps in purpose with one of my other notebooks. So I guess that's like a little sneak peek into how I think about this. But now going into the actually planning part, I'm gonna just grab my pen here, and I kind of started doing this, and I'll bring you a bit closer so you guys can see. But what I've started doing is I'm kind of looking at my list right now of spreads, and I'm starting to kind of star and look through and decide which ones I actually want to bring into my new journal and include in my new setup for the new year. So as you can see, I've already starred future log right here. This is a big change for me because previously I haven't really had future logs in my bullet journal, but because I have all my work stuff separately, I found that keeping my personal events and dates in a notebook instead of on a digital calendar has been pretty easy and pretty seamless, actually. So this year I have been using my calendars more, so I wanted to bring back the future log for next year, so I have a place to record those future events in my personal life. On that similar vein, I also starred the future plus log / add-on, which is what I'm imagining to be a page where I just have kind of like future plus, and then I could write down far future events outside of 2023. So if I know something's happening in 2024, like an event or a wedding or something, I can write that down so I don't forget. And then I just have a big list of other ones. Off the top of my head, I know I'm going to include, I wrote these down a couple days ago, I want to include an index. So I'm going to star that, even though I'm not going to be numbering my pages. But I do know I want a tab system, I'm thinking per month, so that should help section off the pages, but I don't want to go through and number all the pages. I don't know why, but I'm feeling especially lazy with this bullet journal. I want it to be good, I want it to work, but I don't want to put like a ton of effort in this year. This kind of changes depending on how I'm feeling, but this year I'm looking for a chill and easy setup. So that's kind of the plan right now. So that will be the index, and then 2023 tasks and projects. I definitely want to include space for this. Just probably, I'm imagining like a big open space where I can jot down, again, just different tasks and projects I want to do throughout the year that, you know, if I don't have the monthly log ready, since I make those every month, I can just put it there as placeholder until I migrate it. So yeah, I like to keep this in a separate page. I know some people will put tasks in their future log, but I like to keep them separated because in my mind they're different things. Let's see what else I have here. Year at a glance. I think I actually will include this. It's gonna be a bit laborious writing out the numbers, but I do like the idea of having something to reference when I'm setting up my calendar during the month. So then I can just do my setup without looking at anything digital and just really being focused and present with my journal. I have when did I last? This is a spread where you write down like things you've done, like a haircut, went to the dentist, backed up your computer, and when you last did that thing, so you can keep track of kind of how frequently you're doing it. I find this helpful for tracking when I last got haircuts and other things along that line. I don't know if I necessarily want to set it up at the beginning of the book though. And this is kind of one thing I've been thinking about, is what pages do I want to actually make at the beginning of my notebook, and what pages do I think I'll probably use, like this when did I last list, but could probably get away with just setting it up once I need it. So maybe setting it up in my notes section. So essentially what I mean is putting it, I have like my dailies, which I'll be setting up next year. The actual monthly daily format is not changing. I really like it. But then like, you know, for something like a when did I last spread, maybe just setting it up in my notes section for the month and then putting it in the index. Because personally, I found that I don't love to set up any spread I think I might use at the beginning of the year. I'd rather just set up the ones that I really need, and then I can just add spreads as I go. It doesn't bother me to like have collections littered throughout my journal. I find it kind of cool actually to see kind of when things were added and kind of how the journal evolved and grew throughout the year. So that's where I'm thinking something like this. I'll probably make it, but probably not at the beginning, just because I do want to be aware of how many spreads I'm committing to so that my setup doesn't take hours, because I don't know, I'm just not feeling that this year, guys. I just want it to be easy and simple, and I have an idea for how I want to make it a little fun and nice to look at. But yeah, I'll probably set this up in January, but maybe not in this 2023 bullet journal setup session. Monthly highlights, I kind of do this already in my, let me see if I can show you guys here. I do this already in my October/monthly review. This is the October one. I need to finish this actually. I want to write down kind of people I met the month, people I met during the month, as well as food and stuff. I've already written down my highlights and the media I watched, which is really fun. I like kind of having this list, but I already kind of write down monthly highlights in here, so I don't know if it's necessary to continue that at the beginning of. Sorry, my camera died, so I went downstairs and made tea and then came back, but I think I remember where I was. Let me not put that there and block out all the sunlight. Okay. I think I was talking about monthly highlights. Yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna do that because I kind of already have that in my monthly review, so that is gonna be a no. I'm just gonna cross that off so I know the ones that are not contenders. A year in photos, so 1 photo a month. Again, I think that's kind of overlapping with my memory keeping journal, which is my vertical weekly TN, I'm thinking, so I'll just cross that off. Also, I find with Stalogy paper, because it's so thin, it will kind of bump very easily, especially with the really thick Instax photos. So like it wouldn't be too bad because it would be at the front, and then as you go through it would increase, but yeah, still, I just don't think I need that in here. Moon phase calendar printout. I think I wrote this down before I got my latest watch, so I'll show you here. This is my Apple Watch, and this is, I got the new one because my old one was 6 years old and it wouldn't update any longer. And one of the watch faces, this is the Nike watch, so I was able to get the Nike watch face, and you can actually put at the bottom here. You can customize all this, but I chose to put the moon phase at the bottom, so every day I can see the moon phase already. So I don't think I need a calendar for that. Teabag graveyard, again, I think that'll go in my memory journal. Just kind of, if I have a tea bag I try that week, I'll paste it in. Stationery purchases. So this one, I think I will probably make this, but I think I'll do kind of similar to when did I last. I'll probably just make this as a note page in January. gift ideas I'll probably make as a note page in December, since December is Christmas time, or even I might even make this now in my November notes, because I should actually this is a good reminder for me. I should get started on buying gifts. So yeah, okay, I think that's kind of all the ideas, and that's kind of how I go through them and kind of process them and think about them. I don't think there's any other spreads I want to include. So I think what I'm gonna do now is probably, I think I'm gonna sketch out my spreads and just do a rough kind of game plan for how I want them to look. Not super detailed, more what this will be is just so I can see how many pages I'll need for each spread, so then when I go to set up my journal, I have a bit of a guide to follow so I don't accidentally, you know, miss a page in my future log, which will inevitably doom me for the rest of the 6 months I use the notebook. So let's see here. I think I'll just set up some sketching here so then all of my pages are together. So let's do that. I'm gonna draw maybe like a 4x3 page as my little bullet journal pages. Yeah, like that. So I'm gonna draw out some page templates, and then I'll go ahead and plot what I think will be on each page. Okay, so I just drew out some little squares so I can mark down kind of what page will be what. I also numbered them. So I'm gonna go in and start plotting what pages I think will be at the beginning of my journal. So I'm gonna skip this first page because the way the Stylogy works is you have this kind of initial page, which is the flyleaf. I don't know what I'll use this for yet, but I usually just skip that and either make it like a title page or something. Maybe I'll put my name and kind of when this journal starts and ends. I think I will use the next pages for my index. So I'll put that in next. I need to figure out how many index pages I want. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip to October. So I've only had a couple months in here, but I'm gonna flip to October and see how many notes I kept. So I have one here, A6 Bujo Pros and Cons, Halloween movies I wanted to watch, A6 notebook comparison, going back to YouTube. Oh yeah, trying to figure out when I wanted to start a new notebook, a wish list, thinking about this cover. I didn't get this though. Video ideas, November bullet journal, and then this guy, and then a tea review. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 notes. Okay. So I probably wouldn't archive all of these because I don't think I would want to reference these again. But I know that I have 26 squares vertically, so 26 lines per page. And if I'm going through at least, let's say, maybe not 11, but let's say even half of that, so like 6 or 5 notes being archived a month, then we're multiplying that by 6 because I'll have one notebook for every 6 months. So that is 30. So that will be one full page carried a bit over. So definitely would need 2 pages, and that's excluding if I'm going to record my months, if I'm going to record collections. So you know what, I'll just give myself extra room. I prefer to do this because, again, I have 368 pages, so I can afford to take a little extra space to do this. But I'm gonna write index over 4 pages. So these 4 pages will be my index. I probably won't need all 4, but I'd like to have the option to make sure I'm not gonna run out of space, especially with an index. I find that's a bit awkward when you have to re-index stuff halfway through the year. So that will be my index. And then next, I think I'll put my, oh wait, year at a glance. Yes, that will be next. I took a look at how many squares I have in this notebook. So each page is 26 squares by 19. So I think I can fit 6 months of mini calendars per page, which means that I'll need 2 pages for my year at a glance. So that will be here. And I'm also just making sure that I'm aware of the pages that are like open together. So for example, this is the first page on the right, so then these 2 are open together, 2, 3, 4, 5 are open together, and then these guys are open together. So it's not a big detail, but it helps me understand how it will look. So I'm just gonna mark these like this so I can see that's wrong. Again, just to visualize, it's not like a big detail, but you know, it's nice to know that my year at a glance will be on 2 facing pages so I can see the whole year outlines. And that's kind of a nice detail that I'm glad worked out. Next will be so I have a year at a glance, index, future log. Okay, so I'm thinking for the future log, I was thinking about this last night and how I wanted to do it. Originally, I thought that I would do calendars, like mini calendar with the future log, and not have a year at a glance. But I realized that with the size of this notebook, if I took up half the space with a mini calendar, that wouldn't leave a lot of writing room. And I'll show you in October. I like to take up like most of the page when I'm writing out dates. So I think it would just be too squishy for me. So I'm not gonna have the year at a glance in my future log. I'll have it separately, so that works out. And then I was thinking about how I wanted to structure it, just so that I could, I don't know, break it up a little easier, not have all the months together. And what I'm thinking is I'll have my future log broken up into quarters, so 3 months per page. And then what I'm thinking of doing is having 3 months on one side, and then on the other side, I'm gonna have a moon phase that corresponds to that season of the year, which I think will be kind of cool. So I'll show you what I'm thinking in terms of the moon phases. So this is my Sora calendar. This I got for 2022. I'm gonna get this for 2023 because I love it. And I actually, I'll show you a good page for it. Yeah, I guess this one's fine. This is what I like to do with it. I'll actually cut out the cool looking moon phases that have these illustrations with the QR code that tells you more about the moon phase that day, and I'll paste it in my journal on the day it occurs. So I'm gonna do this next year, but I thought what would be cool to kind of continue that into my beginning pages would be to cut out the main 4 moon phases for the month. So like you have your new moon, your first quarter, your full moon, and then your last or third quarter. And then I would put those with each kind of season of the year, because I have a lot of those hanging around since I only paste in the illustrations. So this one I'm gonna draw like the layout just so I can see it. I mean, when I say draw out the layout, I mean like a circle. So I'll put like moon phase on the left, and then I'll have like my 3 months of space for my future log. And then I'll do that over again for 4 quarters. So I'll have like new moon for spring, first quarter. I'll have my full moon. And then I'll have my last quarter for winter. And then, oh, I think I need one more page, but that's fine. I'm gonna do on the next page, I'll have my future plus. And then I'll just kind of draw it here. I'll just draw at the top of the page so I can reference this. So this will be 17. This will be my tasks for the year. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have this kind of plan for my pages, not like detailed, but just so I know how it's gonna be structured, how many I'm gonna do. These will all be pretty easy to put together looking at them now. I'm just gonna use my pen and pencil, and then I'll cut out the Sora calendars for those dates and glue them in, so that will be really easy. And I think I'm pretty well set up. I think the only other thing I would do now is once I have my new journal, I could go in and like sticky note the pages I think I'm gonna use for each of these, but I might not do that because I have this guide to follow, so I can put this notebook beside my new one and then kind of reference it as I go. And I'll probably just do that while watching a show and just do it in like an evening and make it a really kind of relaxing and enjoyable time. So yeah, I think that's the plan. That is gonna be, I think, the end of this planning session. I think I have a good idea of what I wanna do. I think the pages I'm setting up, I'm gonna use, I need to use. I'm not setting up anything I might not use, which is great because then I can just make sure that my planning session isn't too long, which is great because yeah, not in the mood for that this year. I want something easy, but I also think it'll be nice with the kind of hints of decoration with the moon phases that kind of go well with my journaling style. I love to include astronomy and the moon phases in my journal, so it makes sense to have moon phases at the beginning as well. Okay, so I think that is all for this video. I hope that this wasn't like a giant brain blurb of information for you. I hope you enjoyed seeing kind of how I think about things and how I plan things out for my actual journaling process. And maybe let me know below how you like to plan things out. Do you do something a little more involved? Do you like to just kind of make a list and go for it, or do you not even plan at all? I know I like to think a lot about stuff before I do it, so for me this is perfect. But yeah, let me know what you do and how you like to go about migrating into a new journal. Alright guys, so that is the video. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye everybody.
Hello, remote. can't shake